Dear friends, welcome. My name is Alexey Ognev. I am the CEO of the DigiU ecosystem. And now, another webinar. We will talk about artificial intelligence, about DigiU Alpha, listen to Alexander Rees' update on the news from the venture fund at the forefront, so to speak, of the venture industry, with some comments on our products, our successes, news, and everything else. In general, as we love it when Alexander joins us and shares his vision, tactics, strategy, and some practical things. We will also discuss the latest news because there is quite a lot of it. I think at some point we will even hold a separate webinar on our legal part because the process is ongoing, reorganization is moving forward, everything is becoming clear there. Therefore, I think at the beginning of next month, at the beginning of April, prepare for an interesting webinar. This is such an announcement. I wanted to leave it for the end at first, but I will remind you again later. So let's go over the topics that have generally interested the entire community and that we have been announcing since the beginning of this year. This is everything related to artificial intelligence and its manifestation in the form of AI agents of various systems which have their own free will in communication, free will limited in making certain decisions, freedom of communication, performing some actions. In general, what is commonly associated with artificial intelligence and the manifestations we encounter in one way or another. This topic is interesting, but for those who missed the last webinar or watched it, it is still important to emphasize your attention, We completely, thoroughly, and comprehensively translated the last webinar utilizing the power of artificial intelligence technology that includes translation, voiceover, lip sync, voice cloning, and many other advanced features. And accordingly, I must say, indeed, I was speaking there, I believe, in 8 or 9 languages, and it was extremely and exceptionally challenging to distinguish the difference. We received overwhelmingly and exceptionally positive feedback from our diverse and widespread community, which listened attentively to my speech, for example, in Hindi or Indonesian, or in English, French, Spanish, and several other languages. And now, probably for everyone, we will make some kind of compilation of the previous webinar to ensure everyone can enjoy, and you will truly appreciate the exceptional quality of our work, which will continue to grow and improve over time in a remarkable way. This is the very demonstration of our capabilities when...
Мы коснемся темы валидаторов Solana, развития этого продукта. Nous aborderons le sujet des validateurs Solana, hablaremos sobre la inteligencia artificial, más concretamente sobre los agentes de IA, विशेष रूप से AI agents के बारे में और वास्तव में ये trend क्या है. Cụ thể hơn là về các tác nhân AI và thực sự thì xu hướng này là gì, sudah menerapkannya, di mana Anda mungkin telah menemukannya dan sebagainya. Dell'ecosistema Antipad. Dal fronte ascolteremo cosa sta accadendo in questo ecosistema.
Seemingly nothing particularly extraordinary for us from our perspective, but we did it and achieved a significant and notable effect of heightened interest and engagement. Why do I refer to it as nothing particularly extraordinary, you might wonder? Because we have been in this field for a considerable and substantial amount of time and have gained substantial experience, and we always thought that perhaps a human translator might still perform better due to their cultural immersion as they have lived there, for example, in that country, and know it. In general, we were initially skeptical of embracing the new technology, as is often the case with new innovations at the start. When we realized that we needed to act with greater boldness and speed, as I said at the beginning of the year, to keep up with the evolving market dynamics, the market landscape has significantly changed, evolved, and transformed. The rules of the competitive game have been altered, and we must adapt accordingly. Therefore, despite having some initial concerns regarding potential inaccuracies, we released the last webinar and garnered even more attention and interest from a broader audience, attracted even more individuals who comprehended our message and vision. And most importantly of all, they came to understand how these technologies are revolutionizing and transforming the perception of digital content in the current era of technological advancement. When for 5 years a speaker communicated with you via, so to speak, the method of voice dubbing techniques with another voice, sometimes even a female voice, which could alter the experience. And this still imposed a specific perception and understanding on the audience. Now I am speaking, and during these moments of communication, for instance, there is a live broadcast in the Hindi language, and now India, with a population of almost 1.5 billion, comprehends my message more effectively, feels a deeper and more profound connection in terms of communication and understanding, and sees first and foremost an individual who is speaking their native language, achieving this through the aid of advanced technology and innovation, and secondly, witnesses a forward-thinking company that is committed to disseminating these innovative ideas and concepts. It's really cool. Naturally, we will definitely continue everything, but we are still looking further. So where can you already encounter these demonstrations? It's customer support, it's communication in chats, and we are constantly enhancing all of this. I believe that since March 10th, we have had such an assistant accessible in chats, an entity in the form of artificial intelligence, DigiU Alpha, a very cool and catchy name. The context is immediately clear that this is some kind of entity and it communicates as such. Naturally, we are configuring it, making some adjustments. Sometimes it makes mistakes. For example, it might send you to the wrong specialist to resolve an issue. That's normal. This will continue as it learns, as it gains some experience, and as we limit it. I think if we stopped limiting it, it would be different somehow. But would it be understandable to you? Would it be interesting to anyone besides technical specialists? Probably not, because not everyone is interested in or understands looking through a microscope at how some bacteria do something for their evolution and how they react to certain chemicals that cause this or that reaction. It's not interesting to everyone. Not everyone is ready, only technical specialists. Therefore, we make it so that this interaction is simpler, more understandable, more applied. Therefore, this model will become more active, will develop. I think soon you will see a slightly changed tone of communication from it. Perhaps we will try it in some other field. So now it is like some kind of entity, but we will try to make it more human-like. You see, feedback is important to us. If we are communicating with you, we are testing this specifically on you, on our community. That is, we want to see, so to speak, a slightly more conscious use of this technology. We need feedback for you to ask this entity interesting questions or communicate with it in an interesting way. For example, 10 messages, meaning some kind of dialogue, not just 1-2 standard questions that need to be answered, but something more interesting. Naturally, we do not demand this. And we also know that, so to speak, not everyone understands why all this is necessary. Many don't even realize that it's not a human. In general, we will gradually involve you in this communication. This entity, which is now presented on Facebook and has a profile created in Telegram, will soon appear in the personal account as a kind of MVP of a digital personality copy with a set of functions that are currently available. You will be able to conditionally press, touch, communicate, and so on. That is, all this positively affects the development of our entire ecosystem. Perhaps a guide to the products will appear. That is, we apply it in every possible way, look at the desired effect. Somewhere it analyzes something understandable only to us. Somewhere it gives recommendations, but obviously we do not release it to give these recommendations to you. Note that in chats it is forbidden to say things like, for example, buy this or act like that. This is not verified. Who is responsible for this? It, as an entity, kind of analyzed, answered something, didn't guess, and so on. This is actually one of the important ethical questions related to the industry of artificial intelligence, neural networks, and everything else. And who is responsible for them? Can this neural network be some kind of subject? Therefore, they are all limited, including those with which you interact, our community, hence many non-obvious questions. But gradually all this is developing. That's why we keep it under supervision, interact with it. Soon there will be more of it. It will somehow engage a new audience through popular social networks, through some interactions. We also give it freedom, exploring all this and naturally fulfilling business functions. We want a new audience to come. This is also why a big game has been launched with such an understandable technological prize, relevant for a long time. It's 1 Bitcoin, which can be won. Besides the fact that we are giving it away, we also plan to earn it using this technology, to make it earn it itself and then give it away itself. So it's not just a giveaway, it's also an experiment. That's why there's great interest in this. I see it as a kind of research, also a business research with business examples. Obviously, I think maybe not this year, but next year, we will present a report on the effectiveness of this entity, how we do it at some technological exhibition. In general, become part of this experiment with us. The next step in its development is a kind of personal alpha. This is also being discussed in chats. That is, in chats it communicates because it is programmed for this for now, then obviously it will lead personal communication. And here it is important to understand that the technology itself is created in such a way that it communicates where it is convenient for the user. For example, in a messenger, in some social network, maybe in a separate application, but to a lesser extent. Therefore, we and other companies developing similar technologies do not try to create obstacles. This is the story related to the digital copy of a person's personality and everything else. That is, it is conditionally the same as you. It interacts where you do, just like you do. The main difference is that it does this in our interests. For example, in some matters it is not independent, something is inaccessible to it. For some questions it asks for permission, but still it is verified to perform part of the tasks in the interests, so to speak, of the owner and, in fact, to simplify, accelerate, and update our lives. It's very cool. To put it simply, this is probably the next stage in the evolution of various gadgets, devices, and technological innovations. In general, there is a lot to say about this topic, and it encompasses a wide range of aspects. Overall, I am genuinely glad and quite pleased that this groundbreaking technology has been received so positively and enthusiastically by the public. I read the dialogues, and in the chat mode and alpha interface, it's really interesting. We hear some suggestions for development and improvement. It's clear that there are many repetitive questions and inquiries, but I think we will learn and grow together through this process. Personal alpha is the next stage of development and innovation. Now it can be imagined as a bot, a messenger application that communicates with you, remembers you, knows about you, where you can, for example, dictate some messages, ask to set a reminder, or monitor your child as they do their homework and assignments, or give this assistant some role, so it can be your financial advisor, manage your budget, or be a friend, girlfriend, partner, psychologist, or confidant. So such a set of personalities and roles. Obviously, this will be a kind of transitional stage and phase. You choose something, and this week it communicates with you in that way, solving certain tasks and challenges, because not everyone needs all the functionality. And consequently, if the full functionality is not provided, then excessive power is not consumed to create one thing or another. In general, personal alpha will start to appear in the foreseeable future, in the second quarter, maybe a little earlier. We will start testing it, giving it to you for use and feedback. Overall, this could turn into a very interesting and compelling story. It seems like everything is coming together as it should at the time when our entire team anticipated and hoped for. This is not happening just by chance. Firstly, everyone wants simplicity and convenience. Secondly, the technology market is ready for this. Thirdly, we initially, long ago, bet on this and understood that it would happen sooner or later. It's always difficult to know exactly when it will happen. According to our assumptions, it was supposed to be a bit later, in 2026 or 2027. But if it's happening now, it means we need to speed up. So we are speeding up. We have resumed funding, and we are now preparing for reorganization. As I mentioned, around the beginning of April, we will share all the news, which is really very positive in this direction. So join the next webinar. I am now making an introduction to the speech of the person who, in essence, is creating this future from both a business and technology perspective. This is Alexander Thayer. This is about the business structure that allows us to own, manage, and use a large number of technologies in our technological portfolio, in our business portfolio, to our advantage. Let's hand over to Alexander and learn about all the latest news, plans, tasks, and so on. Let's listen carefully.
Good day, esteemed colleagues, partners, investors. My presentation today will be brief. I would like to touch upon two topics in my speech that I believe concern both the audience and us. I will cover the news and comment on the situation with Ava and talk about what is currently happening in the fund and other projects. Let's start with Ava. First of all, I want to congratulate Ava on reaching the finals of the show Meet the Drapers. If you follow the news, you might remember that Ava once took first place in Paris out of 800 projects. This was a qualifying stage for the large global show Meet the Drapers, the final of which will take place in the USA, where representatives of our team will also be present. So we have now passed several more stages and made it to the finals. This is a great achievement. It can be considered recognition of the interest in this project from major investors, including Draper, a well-known serious venture investor who has been investing in crypto projects for quite some time. Although only 2 crypto projects made it to the finals, Ava and one other. This is a great achievement, and I congratulate everyone on it. The final of the show will be covered, will be in video format, and will be broadcast to a 30 million audience, which will also increase Ava's popularity, including in the American market. Speaking of other news, about what is happening with the token, what can be said here? Obviously, Ava still remains a startup, although it already has a serious product, a product used by the largest players in the industry. For example, Mikhail Egorov, founder of Curve, Stani Kulechov, founder of the lending protocol AAV. I personally use it myself, and many others do too. We receive feedback that it is well done, convenient, with small slippages, commissions, and so on. At the same time, naturally, like any project, like any startup, and not even a startup, but any organization, Ava has its processes. There is a human factor. There are some erroneous actions. There are correct actions. And a couple of months were probably spent on carrying out some reorganization, drawing up a new roadmap, cutting some expenses, adding some expenses, making marketing attempts. Not everything was precise. Obviously, Ava, like any normal project, like any person, makes some mistakes, achieves some successes, and reaches certain achievements. but overall, the project is developing. A huge number of strategic negotiations are being conducted, specifically strategic. And if at least 20% of these negotiations lead to some serious and impactful partnerships, it will immediately and significantly, of course, naturally, take the project to another level. I cannot yet disclose all the intricate details, but these are top-level, high-stakes negotiations about serious matters, not just about some investments, but about strategic long-term partnerships. The process of creating the AVA Foundation has also been officially launched. If you look at the best practices of the largest and most successful ecosystems, such as Ethereum, Polkadot, Solana, and many others, they have a foundation, labs, for example. And this is not without reason. In fact, AVA, using the best global practices in consultations with the world's leading professionals, is utilizing these best developments, and these structures will appear soon, primarily for the legal security of the project, and secondly, for its organizational and operational activities. Also, part of the tokens of the founders and the team are already locked, and DAO votes have been obtained. Moreover, this has been done for the maximum term, for 3 years. I think this week all the founders' tokens will be fully locked and DAO votes will be obtained. Also, the pre-seed tokens that we have will also be locked. Mikhail Egorov has fully locked his tokens to obtain DAO votes. This indicates a long-term faith in the project. It is a signal for the entire market. And further, we will conduct negotiations. More precisely, AIVA will conduct negotiations so that all investors do the same. For example, in Curve Finance, more than 80% of all tokens are now locked in DAO, and they actually earn from this. The process has been a bit prolonged, but it is now in full swing. I think some official news on this matter will be released this week. With AVA, you will learn this information earlier. Essentially, this is what we are doing with our tokens. Probably, if we did not see some prospects, we would not be doing this, obviously. We understand that everything will be fine with the project. But the only thing is, of course, it requires a certain amount of time. Yes, I think AVA is completing a process of some reorganization, and a roadmap is being formalized. Therefore, keep an eye on the announcements in the near future, primarily on AVA's channels. I think AMA sessions with Boris will resume. Everything is fine. Everything is developing. There is an understanding of what to do. AVA, in terms of product, is already a world-class product, even though it currently has a small amount of liquidity. But even with this amount of liquidity, we are already competing with giants like Stargate, Layer 0, and so on, in terms of commission levels, transaction speed, and so on. So these are the news, yes. At the same time, AVA is one of the projects in the portfolio. We are not betting on a single project. Our goal is to have many successful projects in the portfolio. One of the directions that launched relatively recently is Validators. Moreover, it launched as Solana Validators. We already hold several of our own validators. We understand that we have the infrastructure for this, we have technical specialists for this, and therefore we offered it to the market as a service. For us, again, this is in turn a kind of tool sale, and with its help, we can cover our costs for maintaining validators and provide this service to people, provide what we use ourselves, what we believe in ourselves. We have long-term faith in Solana. We think that everything will be fine with Solana. Moreover, if or when the US approves reserves in Bitcoins and in tokens of American companies, and Solana is an American company and is on Donald Trump's list, this is yet another reason to ensure that Solana grows more. We don't know the timelines, whether it will happen very soon, in a year or in 2. We understand that it will happen, just as we bet a long time ago that the crypto industry would develop, and it is developing, and already presidents of countries are launching their own meme coins. Countries are creating reserves in cryptocurrencies in Bitcoin. Well, just as we now understand that the Solana ecosystem will continue its development. Therefore, for those who follow the news, who have the opportunity, I sincerely recommend it. I personally hold my own validators, so take advantage. And what started as Solana Validators has great potential for development. We can hold validators for other blockchains, we can support young blockchains in testnet, and in the near future, we are raising nodes for a couple more projects. I won't say which ones yet, but one of them received funding from the A16Z fund by Andreessen Horowitz. Usually, projects that receive investments from this fund turn out to be successful. That is, they have already attracted investments of $50 million, although this is not much on a global scale, as we now understand. Frankly, we didn't understand before why projects attract rounds of $100 million, $200 million. Well, now, of course, we understand better thanks to Ava. At least, Ava is already at the stage where such serious global competition requires significantly more resources. But, of course, we are working on this. We are conducting strategic negotiations. In addition, the fund itself is almost completing consultations regarding the choice of jurisdiction. Such a complex geopolitical situation requires weighing many pros and cons, where to register the fund, and so on. Meanwhile, the fund continues to exist and operate, but legally, it seems not yet formalized. Of course, this needs to be addressed, and I think that this or next month, we will finally launch the registration of a legal entity for the fund. At the same time, the fund, both as a venture builder, a strategic partner, and an accelerator, is quite active. Even this year, several products have been tested, some ideas have been abandoned, some ideas are taking root, and in some ideas, visions of a more interesting business model are emerging. We don't talk about everything we do. I think it's unnecessary because sometimes it's technical information. Moreover, you probably, like everyone else, want to hear more about successes and results. This behind-the-scenes massive amount of work is of little interest to anyone. Therefore, we will speak based on facts when something is launched, or you will see for yourself what will develop in the Antipad ecosystem, what will develop as separate products. There are very interesting directions with AI agents in collaboration with Nansen, a large analytical platform, as well as with other partners. A lot is being done, and a whole team in the fund is engaged in this direction. What would I like to say and insights? What insights to share regarding the market and in general about life? As people age, with the acquisition of experience over time, they become more knowledgeable and wiser in some ways. In childhood and youth, there is this youthful enthusiasm and maximalism, thinking that now I'll do this, and in a year I'll have everything. But life puts everything in its place. And in a more mature age, people become a bit more insightful and wiser, a bit calmer about certain things. Probably the same thing happens in our business, in startups. We probably now understand that it's quite challenging and difficult to beat the statistics. And the statistics say that the average time for companies to become unicorns, and not all become unicorns, is 7 or 8 years. And the average time for companies to go public, if we take a list of the largest by capitalization, the most famous companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, Tesla, and so on, then 8, 11, 13, 15 years to go public is normal. And during this time, they do not pay dividends. Of course, naturally, we do not have such goals. We strive to do it as quickly as possible. We want faster results. But unfortunately, up until now, everything suggests that it is quite difficult to beat or break this statistic. As Warren Buffett once said, that to anyone who beats the S&P 500 index, I will give $1,000 over a long distance. So here probably it is not very successful to beat this statistic yet. But of course, we are working on it. That's on one hand. On the other hand, we are now living in a very remarkable time when one idea can, so to speak, expand and scale on a global level and influence a vast audience. The most striking example of this is bloggers. They make some videos, these videos get millions of views, and they earn substantial and significant amounts of money, which is quite fascinating and intriguing. Honestly, I don't understand how it works. I'm probably too old for this, but these are obviously remarkably interesting and noteworthy examples. Similarly, when a project is launched at the right time, not too early when the market is not ready, not too late when there are already many competitors, and this is a critical aspect to consider. Many factors must come together for a highly successful and impactful project. Timing, utility, availability of resources, team, and this is crucial for success. And when these factors align, something very significant and impactful and transformative in nature can happen. And we are moving in this direction. That's why we create a wide variety of diverse projects and initiatives. We invest in various projects. Some of them turn out to be highly successful and rewarding in terms of returns and impact. Some realize that their idea is not viable, but this is the core essence and fundamental nature of venture investments, which is inherently risky, yet potentially rewarding. And it's not for nothing that global funds, American funds, for example, Pantera Capital, Galaxy Digital, have a strategic planning horizon which is long-term and forward-thinking. They even create funds for 10 years. We orient our fund for 5 or 6 years. But again, we wonder, why do they go for 10 years? In conversations with them, they said they want to capture and capitalize on at least 2 full market cycles to maximize potential returns. There is also the comprehensive startup statistics and data I mentioned, which provide valuable insights. Therefore, in any case, this needs to be taken into account. Do we want it differently? Can we find examples of some successes, deviations from the comprehensive startup statistics and data? Yes, but it will likely be a rare exception to the general rule, which is uncommon and noteworthy. But naturally, we want to be among these exceptions. And I said that we live in a remarkable time. It truly is a time of enormous opportunities. At the same time, it's a time of great uncertainty. For several years now, we've been saying that time is accelerating. The pace of change in the world has reached such a level that many people we talk to, and we ourselves occasionally feel this way, wonder what is actually happening in the world in general and not just in a specific sector or industry where everything is developing at a tremendous speed. Nowadays, you wake up to a lot of news from everywhere. It's impossible to process all the information. It's unclear what's happening in the world. Many of my acquaintances from traditional businesses, and serious businesses at that, ask questions like, what is actually happening? What should we do next? Where should we focus our efforts? And this level of uncertainty is undoubtedly growing. In this regard, we believe that our strategy fits this changing world. We can test a hypothesis fairly quickly, and now we've built an entire team for this purpose, which can quickly identify trends. And the main thing is not just understanding, because we understood trends before. The problem was that we couldn't keep up. While we were trying to do something fundamentally, someone else was already doing it, launching it, and becoming successful. Now we are slightly changing our approach to ideas. That is, to quickly do something, launch it. If it sparks interest, if some clients come, then further develop it, form a new team, secure separate funding, and so on. These are just some thoughts. I don't know if you feel something similar. But as much as I talk to people in general, there is a huge level of uncertainty, a lack of understanding of what tomorrow will bring. And in these conditions, we have to live, and it won't get better. There won't be more certainty. The pace of change will continue to increase. The implementation of artificial intelligence, of course, only strengthens and accelerates these processes. And by the way, artificial intelligence is also a current topic for us. We are also making efforts in this direction. We are already showing something, talking about something. But as usual, less talk, more action. We remain true to this principle. Therefore, we would like to talk about results, about achievements. Stay with us. Thank you for supporting us. Wishing everyone patience, success, and health. Thank you.
So, as always, we thank Alexander. We are learning the new words he has said. Naturally, part of everything that was mentioned will be included in a news post, and you can read and review it. This is my sincere recommendation. I always do this. Naturally, not when I'm listening to it with you during the webinar, but when we discuss something and come to conclusions, conduct various strategic sessions, calls, and so on. Well, in general, the preparatory stage for this year's launch is already in its final stages. Many questions have been initiated. We are now awaiting their development. And from the end of April, major events will begin in which we will participate. These are various blockchain exhibitions. In general, stay tuned for the news. Naturally, we will publish this. You can always meet at some technological event, discuss issues, and communicate. All this takes place under the auspices of the Venture Fund. Sometimes we participate as speakers, sometimes just as visitors. That is, we effectively use all opportunities. What is important to note? I'll touch on the story with Validators. This is a product in which we, as a company, invest attention, resources, as well as the things we already have. This includes technological expertise, understanding why it is needed, how to make money from it, and so on. That's it. Accordingly, by offering this project in the form of validators, we are essentially providing a relevant product in the current unpredictable and volatile market scenario, where various meme coins have consumed all available financial liquidity in the market. In a market where everything is sometimes good, sometimes ambiguous and uncertain, everyone is waiting for Donald Trump, but he came and everything started to fall apart into pieces. That is, everything is not clear and evident, somewhat ambiguous and uncertain. And this is exactly what we talked about. Specifically, what I mentioned from this platform in other webinars, that yes, the market is expanding and evolving, but it will eventually start acting in its usual manner, down, up. What will cause this is uncertain and unpredictable. So what caused it now? Maybe someone will say the economic conditions or circumstances, and someone else will say political factors or influences or something else. That is, obviously the market is currently unclear, but highly volatile and unpredictable, and everything else. And in this context, having products that, regardless of the market, psychological, economic, or political situation, consistently generate a steady stream of revenue and profits, act in the best interest and benefit of their owner, whether they are artificial intelligent personalities or entities, also known as digital personal assistants or helpers. It's even hard to come up with a name for them now. Let's call them that. Some advanced recommendation platforms or systems, sophisticated neural networks or algorithms, or even Solana blockchain validators or nodes. This is what, in essence, does not depend on the market and is set for some long-term strategic position or stance. For example, the Solana Validators program, there can be 10,000 validators. Solana is a promising blockchain, which, according to the President of the United States, is even included in the National Reserve. Such announcements are being made. Plus, there are many other parameters. Currently, the Solana token is priced between $120 and $140 on average. Will it grow long-term in this cycle? It's questionable. Will it grow long-term in the next cycle? Higher chances, because too much has been invested in the development of this product and everything else. It is generally long-term. It understands where to source liquidity, knows the programs, technologies. That is, there is some utility in the token and the Solana ecosystem itself Is it necessary to do something with it over a long period? If answering logically, then naturally yes. Do validators and the program directly opened by this blockchain help with this? Well, of course they help. Can you do this without us? You can. If you have the technological expertise, desire, and understanding of how it all works, perhaps you are following all this, you can update when needed and reach the mainnet. It's not difficult for us to do this. Naturally, we offer this to the audience, and at the beginning of April, it will become even more accessible. As I mentioned, a program is being prepared that allows these installments to be paid effectively. That is, the setup payment for entering the testnet and for entering the mainnet can be divided into several payments. This will increase accessibility. Obviously, the next step we are considering, this is not an announcement, just saying that we can do this, is the possibility of issuing 110 Solana tokens, which you need at the start, as a loan at some percentage, for example, through our banking system. This will further increase accessibility. That is, you won't need to worry about exactly where you might get this deposit from. Although it would indeed be good for one to think about having it readily available so that you can possibly accumulate even more benefits in return over time. In other words, we are significantly increasing accessibility by providing a service that gives people an opportunity they may have never had before, allowing them access at just the push of a button. This is very cool indeed. It's something which draws significant attention from various quarters, both within and beyond this ecosystem itself. There are many interested parties involved here. Numerous applications come pouring in daily, not only those already connected, but also others who aren't yet part of our existing network. They reach out through different channels like funds when we've communicated somewhere previously. Now there's demand growing rapidly among these individuals seeking validators without wanting hassle themselves. They're ready, willing, pay upfront if necessary because they've got Solana tokens handy. They urge us set everything up quickly, bring mainnet soonest possible moment. Therefore, my recommendation, everyone, apply immediately. If full amount present, naturally go ahead, make payment outright. Otherwise, feel free split into smaller, manageable installments. Instead, please note, interface becomes accessible beginning April onwards. So, while preparing webinar, read countless articles across verified resources. Recently stumbled upon statement made head Binance Exchange CZ Changpeng Zhao himself, whom I'll quote, Russian. In cryptocurrency, too much money spent chasing small, quick profits. Focus ethical teams building projects long-term. Big earned, slowly endurance. First clear speaker person, least leader industry. Secondly says, team certain ethical value-based principles, develops product utility needed itself rather than merely growth potential elsewhere. If there is a product, if the team is truly capable of going from cycle to cycle, regardless of anything to develop and create, then it is probably worth paying attention to them. Naturally, I am now applying this quote, for example, to Aave. And what do I see? I see that an ethical team is indeed building projects with a long-term perspective, with endurance. And Boris's endurance is something to be envied. In general, I'm not hinting at anything, but at the very least, I'm drawing your attention to the fact that there is such an approach. And big money in cryptocurrency is earned this way, not in the pursuit of some tokens, meme coins, casino bets, and so on. So this is my sincere and absolutely concluding part of this webinar. Overall, it was a wonderful meeting. Thank you for your attention. I was glad to communicate with you in my voice in different languages. Stay in touch with DigiU Alpha. Keep up with the news. We, of course, moderate, but sometimes something unusual and interesting appears. Therefore, DigiU Alpha will continue to surprise you. Thank you for today's meeting. All the best.